I had him get in the car with me and ride around as I was visiting places around Toledo and everything else. It was cool. And I'll tell you what, this young man is a talent.
Yes.
I've been interviewed by national reporters and all that kind of stuff. This kid is no joke, right? And he's a talent. It's really cool to see.
And so we got a chance to look at that and want to thank Jaden because I know he's going to see this. And thank you, Mr. Secretary, for taking the time to ride around with Jaden Jefferson as he's going to continue to make waves in the journalism and broadcasting like no other. And
you know what's cool? Now, reporters tend to be a pretty tough bunch. Like they got a hard edge to them. They're and to watch these hard-nosed reporters taking care of him and like helping him out. We had a press conference and there was all these, and they were like helping him and giving him tips and like helping mentor him and everything else. It was a cool thing to see. But here's the thing. What they may not realize is that kid's coming for their job someday.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. And so thank you again for grinding with us this morning. Want to get into the conversation because this isn't an interview, Mr. Secretary. This is a conversation. And I want to say, how was the staff? How was the family? How's everybody doing?
We're feeling great. You know, I had a 9 p.m. interview last night and I had a 6 p.m. interview and I snuck home to carve pumpkins with my kids.
I love it.
I had like the pumpkin
amazing.
Goo all over my arms and everything else. But, you know, we're having a great time. We're excited about where we are. We are blowing away any previous number we've seen for early voting and absentee voting. Ohioans are showing up in huge numbers right now, and it's thrilling to see, quite honestly.
Wow, and that's what, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want to kind of set the tone with this conversation, Mr. Secretary. You started under your leadership a statewide initiative with the Diversity and Empowerment Council. I want you to let people know why that is and what that is, because people will say, we get leaders and they don't listen to the common people. No, you've done exactly different with your staff. You started a Diversity and Empowerment Council statewide to hear people from the grassroots levels to the ministry, the ministry and the faith-based community. Why was that so important to start that under your leadership?
So a couple things. First of all, what this started off as was kind of an informal conversation. I'd come to Toledo and I'd talk to you. I'd come to, Columbus and I'd talk to different leaders. I'd come to Akron and I'd talk to different leaders. But what I decided that we needed to do was kind of bring it together as a formal group and give a clear mission, right? Too often, a company or a government office will create like a diversity and inclusion kind of panel. And then, they may actually pay attention to the recommendations that come out of that, or they may not. I said, we got to make it better than that. We got to make this actually something real. And so we actually gave it a different name. We called it Diversity and Empowerment, because to me, inclusion's the bare minimum. Inclusion's like brushing your teeth every morning. You just got to do inclusion.
Right.
If you're not inclusive, you're missing the boat. So we wanted to make it about empowerment. And then we wanted to give it a clear mission, right? The idea being this: we can't solve every problem at the Secretary of State's office. There are big problems impacting Ohio's minority communities, specifically the Black community, that need to be addressed, right? Systemic racism, police brutality, infant mortality, disparate health outcomes. I mean, hunger, poverty, all kinds of stuff that needs to be addressed. And you know what? In the Secretary of State's office, we can't fix all of those things, although those are things that need to be fixed. We can do two things that are really important and that really empower people in this office. We help people start new businesses and we help people vote. Yes. And let's stay focused on those two missions. And what I said is this: if we can have more Black small business owners and more Black voters, if we can get more people in Ohio's minority community involved in entrepreneurship and starting businesses, then that's a win. If we can get more people in Ohio's minority community involved in voting and running for office and being involved in the civic life of our state, then we've done two really good things. And so that's our mission. And then we assembled a really dynamic group of leaders. And by the way, Montrese, as you know, These are not a group of people that are there to be yes men and tell me what I need to hear, right? They're not there to be yes men and yes women. They're not there to just sort of make me feel good about things. They're there to hold me accountable, to challenge me. It's that idea that steel sharpens steel, right? And that we need to help push each other to do better. And I'm really excited about the work that we've done. We've already had a few big successes. Voter registration this year. We focused in on voter registration, and now Ohio has over 8 million registered voters.
Hey, make some
Yes, absolutely.
But you know what, Mr. Secretary, that is huge because there are roughly over 11 million people in the state of Ohio, and we have over 8 million registered voters.
Yep, it's awesome. It's awesome to see. And it took some work, right? Because in this whole pandemic experience that we're living through, it's harder than it's just going out on a college campus or out in front of the courthouse with a clipboard and getting people registered to vote. You can't do it this year. So we had to get creative with it. You heard about our initiative called Styling for Democracy, where we were at barbershops and beauty salons, not only in the minority community, but all over Ohio. We know that barbershops and beauty salons are places where people talk politics. But guess what? If you're not registered to vote, it's just talk, right? Wow. You can't actually take action unless you get registered to vote. So we had barbers. There was a barber here in Columbus named Al, and his barbershop is called A Cut Above the Rest. And he has registered 2,000 voters.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Mr. Al, when somebody's not in the barber chair, he steps out front, out on the sidewalk, and he's waving the neighborhood kids down, and he said, "Hey, you turned 18 this year. Get over here. I need to get you registered."
And a family man. He talks about empowering others. What does that make you think about? And we got listeners and viewers weighing in right now. But what do you hear when you hear our state leader says this is some of the initiatives and efforts that he does?
Well, it's absolutely, it makes me feel empowered because, we want to see a change in our community, especially minorities. We have had to, like you said, fight for inclusion. You would think that that's something that's a given, but it's not. It hasn't been a given for, Black and brown faces. And so when we hear people step up and say that these are the things, these are the changes that need to take place, and this is what I'm willing to do to make those changes happen, it lets us know that there is some hope out there. It gives us inspiration. It makes us want to vote and want to do our part so that we can, help make a change. And this is a very interactive show, Mr. Secretary. We have our listeners and viewers weighing in, and shout out to Travis Grant, DJ Trav. He wants to know if you have, are you inclusive and diverse within your staff there at
and before you answer that, Mr. Secretary, as you answer one of our biggest DJ's name in the area, please also let the listeners and the viewers know what your daughters call your community director, Mo, what they call it. Please let them know that as well.
Well, and you asked about, have we created a diverse workforce? Absolutely, and we're working to get even better, right? When I came into this office, I said people should come to the Secretary of State's office and see an office that looks like Ohio, that reflects the great diversity of Ohio. But here's the thing, that takes a focus at the executive level. We have to say, this is important, and we're going to do it. You can ask my team when they've brought me job applications, and that kind of thing. I said, nope, go back. Give me some more diverse folks that are looking for this job. And we've been able to do that. But again, we always have to work and get better. Montrese, you were talking about Monique Moore. Monique Cox Moore is a leader in our team. She's in charge of all of our community outreach. She supervises a team of people that do that. And my daughters call her Aunt Mo.
I love it.
I love it. Aunt Mo because now I try to go to, this has gotten harder with the pandemic, but I try to go to different churches around the state. And that's a great way to connect with real diverse communities. And so we've specifically targeted going to Black churches all throughout Ohio. Well, my daughters like to come with me. Yeah. And there's always some candy in Aunt Mo's purse.
I love it.
That's part of it.
I love that.
Thank you for sharing that piece because that is so huge. And Leah, as our secretary has alluded to, he started a statewide council that will support him and be a soundboard, as he said, not being a yes man. And this is individuals from all walks of life from any aspect, any diverse background that he takes in consideration, the platforms and the listening ear. And I think that's so huge to who you are.
Yes, very huge.
As a leader.
We've got folks from the immigrant community. We've got folks from the Asian American community. It's really awesome to see. It's a diverse group of people. But here's the other idea. I think all of our moms at some point taught us that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth.
That's right.
And that you should listen twice as much as you talk. And for some of us, that's something we have to remind ourselves. So this is about listening. Because I don't have the same life experience that you all have. Yeah. I don't know the barriers that are in place for a young African-American boy or girl that wants to start a business. And how do we remove those barriers? I need to listen to you. I don't know the barriers that are in place that may keep somebody from voting or make them feel like it's harder for them to vote. So I need to listen to you about how we remove those barriers. And that's what this group's all about.
Absolutely. And we want to thank you. And I'm glad you said it, because our intern that's engineering this show right now is a student at the University of Dayton, modern design and graphic. So he's engineering this on the fly. He's looking at you. He's seeing it. And so we want to thank you for that. But one of the things that you mentioned about listening with voting. And we want to talk a little bit about that here with you mentioned in some of our recent meetings, there's so many things that have been put in place to protect voters. You talked about the PPE supplies that were given. You talked about some of the things that people can go, when they go to the polls, Mr. Secretary, they are safe because of what? What is being done?
Yeah, so actually, I'm going to grab this. This is a document that I'm holding here that is what we call our health checklist. We put this out 2 months ago. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an epidemiologist. So we listened to the experts at the Ohio Department of Health and the United States Centers for Disease Control. And we came up with a 61-point checklist. We like to keep things simple here.
61 points?
61-point checklist. But here's the deal. If a board of elections, and they're required to, follows these 61 points, and they check off each item off the list, then what they'll be doing is creating a safe environment at the polling stations on election day, but also at the early voting locations. And it's nothing that we wouldn't already expect. It's 6 feet of social distance. It's wiping down any kind of surfaces that people touch so that they're not transmitting things. It's having shields and masks and everything else for people. It's making sure that there's hand sanitizer. Heck, even something simple like a doorstop. People wouldn't think of this, but like a $2 doorstop to prop open doors so that people aren't touching them all day.
Right.
That kind of thing can make a big difference. And so that 61-point checklist is in effect for every polling location and every board of elections in the state. But we've taken it beyond that. We've got signage up and we made standard signs to remind people you're supposed to wear a mask and you got to stand 6 feet apart and that kind of thing. We've also been able to field massive quantities of PPE. And this has been a cool effort because, when we deal with something like this, people tend to come together. I really believe that people have good hearts, and we've seen that. People want to get involved and help out. Ohio companies have been donating all kinds of stuff. We had a company that's manufacturing masks up in Lake County, Ohio. They donated 500,000 masks. Anheuser-Busch, the beer company, figured out that if they can take the beer brewing process and use it to create pure alcohol.
What's on your mind? Give us a call.
Close to 3,000 gallons of hand sanitizer. Plus, we were able to use some of that federal money that we got through the CARES Act for the same thing. So the bottom line is this: if you feel comfortable going to the grocery store, you should feel comfortable coming to your polling location.
That's right.
But guess what? If you don't want to come out in person, there are other options available for you. There's still time to request an absentee ballot where you can vote from the comfort of home by mail. Today's really the deadline for that, though, because you got to give the Board of Elections time to mail you your ballot. And so if you haven't requested an absentee ballot and you want to vote from home by mail, the place to go is voteohio.gov. That's our website. You go to voteohio.gov. You can request your ballot. You print off the form to request your ballot. But if you don't have a printer, you can actually make your own form, and there are instructions right there for how to just take a plain old piece of paper and make your own form at voteohio.gov. But today's the day you got to get that mailed in.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What I am thankful in some of our recent meetings, and we talked about some of the things that's actually happening. So not just bearing down and beating down the negative, Leah, but some of the things that you have done, Mr. Secretary, with our Board of Elections. And thank you to all of our Board of Elections, the staff, for their commitment and their efforts during this time. One of the things that you have put in place is if the information is incorrect, you have initiated and instructed Board of Elections to contact those individuals to get that information correct and make a conscious effort to do so. Why was that so important?
Montrese, my daughter last year, when I got sworn into this job, one of her classmates asked her, what is your daddy's new job? And she said, Daddy helps everybody vote. And that's the bottom line. As elections officials, both Republicans and Democrats at your county board of elections, my job is to help everybody vote. And that's the way that our elections officials do as well at your county board of elections and 87 others. We're there to not keep people from voting, but to help people vote. And so we knew that this year we were going to see more first-time absentee voters than we've ever seen. And by the way, we have blown it out of the water, double the number that we've seen in the past. People are voting by mail for the first time in Ohio. So we did a couple things. We changed the instruction form. The old instruction form was legally correct, but you could tell it was written by lawyers. It was hard for me to read. It was just a bunch of legal jargon, right? And so we redesigned the instruction form, and now it's a checklist. You've heard that checklist thing from me. Wow. Now, this one's in black and white, but some of them are in color too. It's step 1, step 2.
And
step
we can
3,
see that.
Step 4. Right there is the amount of postage. Of course, your listeners can't see this, but I'm holding up the instruction form that comes with every absentee ballot. So if people follow this instruction form, they'll be good to go. But if you make a mistake, the Board of Elections, I've instructed all 88 of them all over the state, pick up the phone and call the voter and talk them through it. Of course, they still have to mail you something and mail it back so that you can correct your mistake. But you've got a few days after the election to do that if you did make a mistake, to make sure that your vote counts. And this is just another way that we're trying to help people. So make sure when you fill out your absentee ballot, that right there on the envelope, it asks for phone number and email address. That's so the board can call you if there's a mistake. If you forget to put your signature on it, or if if your address wasn't right, or whatever else, they can work with you, and that's important.
And it is, Mr. Secretary, we want to thank you. And again, the elephant is about the drop-offs. But one of the things that you also have made a priority with the Postal Service, that when they see the voter's information, that is a priority with our Postal Service, which I think is unique. And why was that so important that you push for our postmasters to make that a priority in the mail when it talks about our...
For those watching on the screen, see that logo right there, that official elections mail logo? That means that this is an important piece of mail that gets special protection. Anything that has a ballot in it or a ballot request in it gets that logo that says official elections mail. Here's what we did, though. There were a lot of concerns this summer about some changes that the Postal Service had been making. And so I got a bipartisan group of secretaries of state together from all over the state. And so it was actually myself and the Michigan Secretary of State. And you know what? Here's what's great. She's a Democrat from Michigan. I'm a Republican from Ohio. You'd think, oh my God, these two can't agree on anything. But actually, we're actually great partners and we work really well together. So we got this group together and we demanded a meeting with the United States Postmaster General. And to their credit, they gave us 2 meetings. We met with them. We talked about some changes they needed to make. One that really affects the Toledo area is that they committed to keeping the sorting of mail in Ohio for this election period instead of shipping stuff to Detroit like they had been doing. And so that can help speed up the process. They instituted what's called an all-clear procedure where they got to go through the sorting facility every day and make sure that anything that has that official elections mail logo on it is out the door. Nothing gets left behind. They agreed to build relationships. And it's so important because the Postal Service is thousands and thousands of people that work really hard, but it comes down to folks getting to know each other, where that local postmaster has to sit down and exchange cell phone numbers with the local elections director and get to know each other. But the bottom line is this: because of those changes they've implemented, and we need to continue to hold them accountable to make sure they can keep delivering on time. But because of those changes, the mail's moving quick. And so mailing in is still the best way to return it. It's still the way that most Ohioans, millions of Ohioans, will send in their absentee ballot by mail and then go track it at voteohio.gov to make sure it got there, just like you track a package. But the other thing is, if you want to take it down to the Board of Elections, it's easier than ever. If you really want to go down there, get on a bus or get in your car and go down to the Board of Elections, you can do it. And every Board of Elections now has a secure 24-hour receptacle where you can go deposit it yourself. But again, the easiest thing is to mail it in, but do it soon.
Yes. Well, we have a great question on our live. Shout out to our executive producer, Jesse Coleman. He says, how do we ensure that our elders who aren't able to go vote or fill out their own ballots are able to get their voting done?
Yeah, great question. And it's challenging for some, right? And so we wanted to make sure to work with them because it got even more difficult with this pandemic. It's always been a little bit challenging for our older Ohioans. And so here are the 3 things that you can do. First of all, if you have a loved one who's in a nursing home or a senior facility, look out for grandma and grandpa. Make sure to help them get their vote cast. The best thing for them to do is to request an absentee ballot. But again, today's the deadline to do that. If they don't request an absentee ballot and vote by mail, then there's another procedure where the Board of Elections can actually come down to their nursing home and set up, or their senior center or whatever else, and set up an early voting site at their nursing home. They bring a Republican and a Democrat, they bring the machines, they bring the equipment, and they just run like an early voting center. But here's the other thing, because some nursing homes don't want to bring outsiders in right now, we've actually found a really creative way where if we find one nurse who's a Republican and one nurse who's a Democrat, we can actually train them to be special purpose poll workers for that facility.
That's cool.
They take an oath. They have to take an oath to swear to run a fair election, and then those special purpose elections officials for that facility can run early voting for the residents there. So we've tried to be creative about it, but also, again, families need to look out for grandma and grandpa and make sure that they're able to get their ballot cast.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great.
Mr. Secretary, thank you, because I didn't even know that, and I think that we can share that message.
Great question, Jesse.
And thank you for our listeners, again, that's listening on iHeart, Amazon, Apple. We thank y'all for listening to the conversation and joining in. Just kind of want to change the lane real quick, because one of our listeners also asked, he said, ask the secretary, what's his favorite rapper? What's your R&B group? And I won't tell him. I'll let you tell him. One of your favorite groups.
You remember last time I was on the radio, you asked me my favorite hip hop song, and I said the soundtrack of my years of high school. So this goes back to the 90s, right? Was Blackstreet, No Diggity.
I love it. Yes, so that's a classic.
Last time I was on the radio with you, I actually got to intro the song.
Yes,
I felt like a real DJ. It was awesome.
And we thank you for that.
That's a classic.
And just kind of in the spirit of that, as we recruit poll workers and young people, and then that's why it's so important to have you on our show, to let people know that you are a real person that cares, that has real life experiences and relate to others. How is the poll recruitment going here in Ohio for those that work at the polling stations, Mr. Secretary?
So there were a few key things that we really focused on. Around about April, we started figuring out how are we going to run a presidential election in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody's ever had to do this before. It's a challenge. So let's just roll up our sleeves and get it done. One of the things was we wanted to maximize early voting and absentee voting. I'll tell you what, we've killed that. It's just awesome right now. Early voting and absentee voting is triple the numbers of early voting, double the number of absentee voting. We're blowing away any previous records, so that's happening. The other thing was the health standards that we talked about, and you heard about all the things that we're doing to make sure it's healthy. But the third thing was making sure we had enough men and women to work the polls. Now think about this, just to open 4,000 polling locations around Ohio, and that's how many voting locations there are on election day, close to 4,000 polling locations. It takes 37,000 Ohioans to run those places, so that when you get there, there's a smiling face. Well, you won't see them smiling because they'll be wearing a mask, but they'll be smiling, and there's folks waiting to greet you, check your ID, get you your ballot, give you your I voted sticker, all that kind of stuff. But we knew that 37,000 wasn't enough, because we needed to have a backup. We needed to have a reserve force ready to go. And so we actually set the goal of 55,000, and each county board of elections was told to have 150% of their normal. So if they normally need 1,000, we told them to have 1,500 trained and ready to go. And I'll tell you what, the counties have risen to the occasion, and they've really gotten the work done.
Yes.
We're ready for election day.
Wow. And we just got a few more. We don't want to take too much of your time, just a few more minutes. But our intern, again, he's 18 years old. He's a young black male, as you can see. He had a question, Mr. Secretary.
Okay, so with voting through mail and stuff, and a lot of people doing that, we seen this kind of in previous elections, or we heard about it. Like, how do you ensure that votes don't get tampered with?
Absolutely, great question. By the way, you're going to art and design school, the modern
design and Dayton.
So let me show you something here. So this is the, where'd that thing go? Oh, the new Ohio I Voted sticker. I don't have one on me right now. Anyway, the new I Voted sticker that we designed, it's a student that goes to school with you there who was 2 years ago a high school student that designed that. a young lady named Emily Legg, and she came to work in our office as an intern because she won the contest for the new I Voted sticker. So it's that sticker that everybody gets is something that one of your fellow classmates designed. And so that's a cool thing. Here's the answer to your question. The way that we run elections in Ohio starts with everything's bipartisan, right? It takes one Republican and one Democrat to do anything. And so they keep an eye on each other, and they work really well together. It's not like, in DC, it feels like Republicans and Democrats can't agree what day of the week it is. But at your Board of Elections, they actually work together in a really friendly way. But even the doors are bipartisan. Here's what I mean. There's a Republican lock and a Democratic lock for the vault that they keep the ballots in. There's a Republican lock and a Democrat lock for the warehouse where they store the machines. And so both parties have to be present for every part of the process. One of the other things that we do in Ohio is we maintain accurate voter lists. That means when people pass away, we work to remove them from the voter list and that kind of thing. That's important. Also in Ohio, every step of the process, there are safeguards and checks. We did this really cool video. It's only like 3 minutes long, but you'll find it on my social media. It's called The Life of an Absentee Ballot. And it's kind of like from the ballot's perspective, we show when it starts and how it gets to your house, and then you vote it and how it gets back and all the it's in 3 minutes, you can watch this thing and see all the safeguards that go into it. The other bottom line is this: Ohioans can track their own ballot, right? So you can take responsibility for making sure your ballot gets counted by going to voteohio.gov/track, voteohio.gov/track. And when you go there, you just type in your name and you can see, all right, they've mailed me my ballot. And then once you mail it back, you can see, all right, they've received it and they've accepted it. Once they've accepted it, you know that it's good to go and it's going to count. It's just the same as putting it in the box yourself. And so people make a lot of noise, unfortunately, this time of year and make up a bunch of stuff that isn't true. Absentee voting is safe and secure in Ohio. It's the way I voted. My wife and I, we mailed in our ballots. It's the easiest way to vote in Ohio. And the other cool thing about voting absentee is that you get to cheat on the test. Now think about this. Any of us that have ever voted have gotten down further in the list and we're like, okay, now wait a second, which judge is which? Who did I want to vote for? That kind of thing. If you just take 30 minutes and flip open your laptop or turn on your smartphone, you can sit there at your own table and vote your ballot and research 30 minutes, the time it would take you to organize your sock drawer, you could be the most informed voter ever. And so that's another cool thing about voting absentee is that, again, you're allowed to cheat on the test and think through it and talk. You can call a friend and say, hey, who are you voting for judge? This really matters,
Absolutely. And thank you, DeJuan, for asking that.
Yes, that was a great question.
And kind of want to spearhead, Mr. Secretary, why is it so important for you to engage young minority voters to get involved in some of the initiatives and efforts that you have done from your office to engage young voters? Because this is where we're at. That's why they're asking the questions.
Bottom line is their voice matters because they're and some people say, our young people are the future of our state. I kind of reject that. They're the right now of our state. But I'll tell you what, they're going to be building their careers and raising their families and doing great things in this state for a long time to come. Now, think about this. The stereotype is that older people vote and younger people don't. And actually, that's kind of backward of what it should be. Right? I mean, imagine, again, our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, they're known as being reliable voters. They vote in every election, and God bless them for that. That's really awesome. But in many cases, they don't have as much skin in the game as young folks do. They've already raised their families. They've already had their careers. They're enjoying their retirement years or whatever else. But those of us that are in our 20s and 30s and 40s.
Still grinding.
Right.
We got a long time to go. And the decisions that are made at the White House or the State House or the courthouse or the schoolhouse are going to impact us for a long time to come. And so young folks got to be engaged. The other thing is it comes down to this. It's up to us. We get the kind of government we deserve, right? Because we're the ones in charge of it. We're the ones that make those decisions. I've got a quote on the wall here from Abraham Lincoln, pretty old, but it's still just as true as when he said it. It says, elections belong to the people. That's it. It's no more complicated than that. Elections belong to the people, and it's up to us to pick what kind of government we want.
Thank you. Just a couple more before we let you go. Some of our listeners and viewers, what's some of the things that they're seeing, Leah, some of the questions and some of the things that people are just really speaking to the conversation?
They're just saying thank you for for calling in and giving all this great information. A lot of people are saying this is a lot of great info that they didn't know. Shout out to Dr. Vic Coleman, one of our partners here. He says, thank you, Secretary LaRose, for your time to engage our audience. And yes, that's true. We do. We absolutely appreciate you taking the time. We know you have busy days over there, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and give us all this great information, because it's so important that we get our people out here to vote. No matter the race, no matter the culture, like, you got to get out there and vote. So we appreciate you giving us all this valuable information.
Awesome.
I would like to, one of the things that we do here on the all new Rise and Grind Morning Show is we really show thanks and appreciation. So, Mr. Secretary, because this will be documented and recorded forever, who is some people in your life that you would like to just say thank you, from family to friends? And you can't name them all, but who are some people that you could just say, hey, I appreciate you and I thank you?
Well, I tell you what, the biggest group is our elections officials around the state. I mean, these folks are the heroes right now. They're working long hours and getting it done. I can't name every one of them, but these are the men and women that are out there at your board of elections. So if you're a person of faith, keep them in your prayers. They're working really hard. I mean, for the last 2 hours, they've had people lining up already to come in and vote, and they'll be there until late tonight, making sure that they get it done. They'll be there on Saturday offering early voting. They'll be there on Sunday offering early voting. They're not going to sleep much between now and election day. Of course, my family, my wife Lauren, is my teammate and the center of my life, and my three little girls, Hadley, Ellie, and Lainey. But also our team, right? You mentioned Monique Moore. I got to mention Zach Reed. Zach is a great member of
and Maggie. Don't forget
Maggie, who's my press secretary. Exactly, who keeps me on my toes all the time. And we just got a great team here. I don't want to start naming people because I'm going to miss people. But we've got a great team here at the Secretary of State's office.
Absolutely.
Well, we thank you again. Our viewers.
Thank you so much.
We want to be a soundboard for you here in Northwest Ohio. This is the #1 urban radio podcast in the country. And you took some time to have a conversation with us, Mr. Secretary. We're going to continue to have people vote. We're less than 6 days away. Is there any final points you would just like to say to those that's listening in their cars, or if they're working out on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon? Is there anything else that you would just like to sit in their spirit as we go and get ready for a life-changing election?
Okay, so the bottom line is this: your voice matters, especially as an Ohioan. Here in Ohio, we've got this large voice in national elections because we're this swing state. Notice every candidate pays a lot of attention to Ohio. So if you're a Buckeye, if you're an Ohioan and you're not voting, you're missing out. And so we know that our voice matters. And here's the other good thing: it's easier to vote than it's ever been in Ohio. Let's stop and think about that for a second, because there's so much noise out there. There's folks on the left and there's folks on the right that are claiming there's all this problem and all this fraud and all this. Don't believe it. Voter fraud is extremely rare, and it's easy to vote in the state of Ohio. We have more early voting than all but 5 states in the whole country. We have Sunday voting. We've got Saturday voting. We've got evenings voting. We got election day when the polls are open from 6:30 a.m. until 7:30 p.m. And the worst thing that may happen is you may have to wait in line for a little while. The worst, listen, we would wait in line for a roller coaster, but then people can,
or a concert.
Yeah, exactly. Or a concert. This is something important. And we work hard to minimize lines and try to keep that to a minimum because we want to make it easy for people to vote. But it's easy to vote in Ohio. We've got absentee voting. There's still time to request your ballot, but you need to do it today. VoteOhio.gov is the place to find out how. You've got early voting that continues every day all the way through November 2nd. And then you've got election day. Don't make excuses. Pick which one works best for you and get out there and make your voice heard. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. Let's give him a round of applause. We look to have you back again when you're in Northwest Ohio in the Toledo area. You have us. I look forward to continue working with you. And thank you for giving the Rise and Grind Morning Show your time this morning.
Yes, thank you so much.
Great to be on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Take care.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really dope.
Yeah, this is the all new Rise and Grind Morning Show, Leah. When you get a chance, and we actually get a chance to hear from an elected state official with a relationship, Leah, what does that say to those that's listening to our show?
It says that at the end of the day, we are not just, we are here to entertain you. We are here to wake up with you in the morning, get you energized, get you inspired, but also we want to make sure that we showcase and highlight what's really important as well. And having someone like Secretary of State, call in and want to talk to us, I mean, I'm humbled because, he has a million things he could be doing, not wanting to talk to us. So the fact that he wants to talk to the #1 urban podcast lets me know that he cares about our community. He cares about what we think, what we're feeling, and he wants to bridge a gap. And that, again, like I told him, that just gives me hope. That gives me reason to want to get out there and vote and do my part, because our part is to do the voting. We have to get out there. We have to vote. We have to exercise our right to vote, and then hold them accountable and make sure we do our research and watch them. Make sure that they make something happen.
And
make sure that they follow.
Accountable.
Exactly. Hold them accountable and make sure they follow through.
And even for those that starting a business, because as we talked before, Leah, in Ohio, we have seen more entrepreneurs start businesses during the pandemic than in our history.
Absolutely.
So this is the gentleman, the Secretary of State, who controls that, the voting and the businesses. Mm-hmm. Every business entity in Ohio goes through his office.
Exactly.
And so as we talk about minorities and blacks, here's our opportunity. And I like that because it is somebody who's willing to listen. Like if DeJuan wanted to start a business, if you wanted to start a business here in Lucas County in Toledo, and you ran and said you had success, and now you want to go to Cleveland. Now you want to go to Cincinnati to start that business. What kind of barriers are they putting on you that our counterparts don't have to happen, but you telling me I can't open my business? Here's a gentleman that said, nope, let's try to find what those barriers are, because we want Leah to open that same business and service to the people of Cincinnati, to the people of Cleveland. I think that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very huge because especially going through this pandemic, we had so many people who took the opportunity to start their business or start their brand through this pandemic. People were out of work, and he's telling us that he's going to allow us to be able to start our businesses, get those resources. So it's just a matter of us doing our research. That's really all it boils down to. Like, we hear them talking, and some people will say, well, what resources or what this? And I don't know nothing about this. Well, you have to do your work too. You have to do your research, but the resources are out there. And we have people like Frank LaRose and other people in these positions of power who are trying to, create these opportunities for us. So we have to take advantage of them.
Absolutely. DeJuan, I see you getting excited and lifting up. So you got a chance to experience, this is what they call social studies or civic government,
right
right in the studio. What's your thoughts, man? What you thinking about?
Yeah, I agree with Leah. I feel like more of us need to be educated. I feel like we keep saying, we continue to say this, like more people need to be educated on what's going on in the world and stop being clueless.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. And that's, again, we have such a great opportunity right now, Leah, DeJuan, using this platform. And I'm going to reach back out to Frank and see if I can connect you with the young lady that created that voted sticker.
Yeah, now that I know she went to the school, I'm about to go ahead.
That's cool. That's so dope. I love that.
I didn't even know that.
And you saw the
really
stickers
dope.
online. Ohio voted. Young lady from the school that you went to created that, and he used that, and that's the type of person that Frank is, even to his staff. But Leah, before we went, we were actually going to take a moment because this is Scorpio season to recognize and send out some birthday love.
Yes.
Let's get them. Hey, you know what? Give me some music. Give me a little music. Turn us up a little bit. Turn the music up, the little sound bed a little bit. And we're going to make our own little beat because it's the birthday song. Where my birthday people at? Go, Lee.
Shout out to DJ Trav. He says, vote, vote, vote. And if you need a ride, I'll come get you.
Hey,
so we're going to hold you to that, Trav.
For sure.
If you guys
and I'll put gas in your car.
If anybody needs a ride, don't let that be your excuse. Get out there and vote. DJ Trav said he'll personally come take you.
And I seen Trav vehicle is it's some room in there, and
he got some room,
and he has the plastic barrier up. So you good.
I like
so
it.
Leah, who can we give some birthday love to right here on the All New Rise and Grind Morning Show this morning?
Okay, well, again, I'm gonna send some more birthday love out to my girl Spider. It's her birthday. Happy birthday to you, girl. My boy Corey Colin, Galen Hughes Jr., my girl Selena Soulsby Reynolds, And Twan Gaston, happy birthday to him.
Hey, Twan,
owner.
Groomed.
His birthday was yesterday. Owner of Groomed, yep. And shout out to my boy Kevin Darren Scott and my girl Kensley Z. Their birthdays are tomorrow, and I won't be here tomorrow, so I wanted to send them an early birthday shout out. Who you got?
I got a few. I want to say, hey, happy birthday, Mark Spider. Again, want to say happy birthday, Weeze Black, Mr. Keith Stewart in Alabama. Happy birthday. Want to say happy birthday, Ebony Sims, my friend from McTide and Pickett. Happy birthday, Eb. And also Denisha Tatum, my classmate in college. Again, if you're celebrating a birthday for all the Scorpios, Leah, hit that love button. Let's just send some love button for the Scorpios. Duane, you know anybody birthday today that you want to just say, hey, man, happy birthday?
Birthdays, but shout out to them people, though. I love y'all. Happy birthday to y'all.
There you go. That's how it does. Leah, this has been another great show. We won't hold much of their time. We understand that there's some things that you have some obligations, and we're going to continue to keep you covered. But Leah, just a great information show.
Yes, this was a great show.
And it was a whole different vibe today, too.
Yes.
We was what I liked about today, Leah, is that we can connect people with our relationships.
Yes.
It's not, like you said, it's not always the hoops and hollering. Sometimes it's just about relationships.
Yes.
So thank you for our sponsor, Lyman Umadop, Hotbox, Greater New Psalmist, and
Miss Perfect Boutique.
And so you'll get a chance to also see them as our intern. Again, promotes our businesses. But Leah, is there anything or anyone that you just want to say, hey, get through your tough moments? Somebody is appreciating you. Our kids, they're going back to school. Who do you just want to put some love around in the community and those that's listening?
Well, I definitely want to put some love around my Davis family, because tomorrow is my daughter's father's birthday, the one that was taken from us. He, has been gone for 14 years, and tomorrow is his birthday. And so I know this time of the year is always rough for us because we lost him in September, and then his birthday's in October, so it's just a rough time. So I want to send special love out to my Davis family and let them know I love them, I appreciate them. I'm with you every day. I'm hurting like you every day, but we're going to still continue to be there for one another and lift one another up. And I love all of our listeners, all of our viewers. You guys keep me going every day, all the inboxes, all the donations to our company and to our brand, and just everything that you guys are doing to uplift us. We thank you.
That's right. And again, to our sponsors, and if you would like to be a sponsor, or if you have music, yesterday we had a great show with just a music mix, so y'all can get ready for a music mix right here on the all new Rise and Grind morning show. Thank you to Lima Umadop, Hotbox, Greater New Psalmist, and Miss Perfect Boutique. And if you would like to be a sponsor, send your information to info@the419grind.com. Let us know. Hey, Leah, we'll rep you because you repping us.
That's right.
And as you always say, Leah, in such a elegant way to those that's listening that's not even in Ohio, we want to say we love you. And as Leah always say,
we love you. And until next time, mwah.